The room was still. The morning sun spilled softly through half-closed blinds, painting golden stripes across the hardwood floor. A ceramic mug sat untouched on the kitchen counter, steam long since vanished. Her phone rested quietly on its charger. Wallet, keys, and purse undisturbed. But Laura Jennings was gone. And on the neatly made bed, a folded note. Just 5 words, scrawled hastily in dark blue ink. "I'm sorry. L." That was all. No sign of struggle. No sign of where she had gone, or why. Just a whisper in ink and a vanishing act that would baffle her family, her friends, and a town unprepared for the silence that followed. Laura had disappeared without a trace from her apartment in Waverly, Tennessee, sometime during the night of June 17, 2016. The case would soon spiral into a haunting mystery marked by cryptic emails, surveillance footage, and the unexpected discovery of her abandoned car deep in the woods. What started as a presumed suicide or nervous breakdown unraveled into something far more sinister. The deeper investigators dug, the darker the truth became. This is not just a story of a missing girl. It's a story of a warning left behind. A scream written in ink. And a chilling glimpse into the mind of a predator hiding in plain sight. Laura Grace Jennings was 23 years old when she disappeared. A soft-spoken, bright-eyed young woman with a penchant for children's books and yellow cardigans, she lived alone in a modest upstairs apartment on Main Street above Bearden's flower shop. The kind of girl who sent thank-you notes, remembered birthdays, and carried around too many library books at once. She was born and raised in Waverly, a small Tennessee town nestled between thick woods and long-forgotten railroad tracks. With a population of just under 4,000, Waverly was the kind of place where everyone knew each other or at least thought they did. Laura worked part-time at the local library and was finishing her online degree in child psychology. She was kind, quiet, often lost in thought. Her co-workers admired her calm demeanor. Her friends spoke of her loyalty and empathy. But beneath that composed surface, there were hints of something deeper. Something troubled. Her mother, Karen Jennings, often described her as an old soul with a heavy heart. Laura's father had died when she was 13, an accident on the job at the nearby mill. Afterward, Laura became more withdrawn, clinging to books and pets and long solo walks through Waverly's wooded trails. She dated sporadically but had one long-term relationship in town, Evan Briscoe. Evan was the opposite of Laura, gregarious, charming, always the center of attention. He was 5 years her senior and a contractor who often traveled between counties. They had met when she was 18 and stayed together for nearly 5 years. By the spring of 2016, however, things had started to unravel. Friends noticed bruises on Laura's wrist she explained away as clumsy accidents. She had grown more withdrawn. Less sleep. Shorter text replies. Missed workdays. By May, the relationship ended abruptly, with Laura reportedly moving all of Evan's belongings out of her apartment and changing the locks. 3 weeks later, she vanished. On June 17th, Laura clocked out of work at 5:02 p.m. Security footage from the library showed her wearing a light blue dress and carrying a canvas tote bag. She waved goodbye to her colleague, smiled faintly, and walked home. That was the last confirmed sighting. Neighbors reported hearing crying or low voices from her apartment later that night. Some mentioned a male voice, but no one reported anything suspicious at the time. The following morning, June 18th, her downstairs neighbor, Madeline Sharp, noticed Laura's door slightly ajar. She knocked. No response. After several more attempts, she opened the door and stepped inside. Everything looked normal. Nothing seemed out of place. But there was no sign of Laura. And then, the note. "I'm sorry. L." The local police were called within the hour. A missing persons report was filed. But with no evidence of foul play, and with Laura's car missing, authorities initially believed she had left voluntarily, possibly in emotional distress. What they didn't know then was that Laura had not simply disappeared. She had been taken. It wasn't until the second day after Laura's disappearance that police began to reconsider their assumptions. Her car, a silver 2007 Toyota Corolla, had not been seen leaving the town by any traffic cameras. No gas station footage along the main routes showed her stopping for fuel. Her credit cards hadn't been used since June 17th. Her social media remained untouched. She hadn't taken her passport, and her laptop had been left behind. Police searched her apartment thoroughly. No signs of forced entry. No broken windows or kicked doors. No signs of a struggle. But there were odd details. The cup of tea on the counter was still warm when the neighbor first entered. Her phone was charging, with a new message to her mother scheduled for 2:04 a.m. that read, "Love you. Talk soon." Investigators would later confirm it had been written but not manually sent. It had been scheduled using an app. Laura had never done that before. Her wallet was on the counter. Her shoes were still by the door. Yet her car was gone. By June 20th, the case was officially escalated. Flyers were distributed. Search teams combed nearby trails. Drones scanned the wooded hillsides outside Waverly. Dogs were brought in. Nothing. But two discoveries shifted the focus entirely. First, her browser history. Detectives found recent searches on Laura's laptop, how to disappear without being found, private missing persons investigators, and how long until someone is declared legally dead. These were concerning, but not conclusive. Anyone in emotional pain might research similar things. Then came the second discovery, an anonymous email Laura had received from an encrypted Proton Mail account 5 days before she vanished. The subject line read, "They know." The body of the email was short. "I saw what he did. You're not crazy. But if you talk, they'll find you. And it will happen again." It wasn't signed. The email was routed through multiple VPNs. Cybercrime experts couldn't track it. Laura had responded. Her reply, "Who are you? What did you see?" There was no answer. Investigators began to wonder, was Laura afraid of someone? Had she witnessed something she wasn't supposed to? The case took another turn when a journal was found tucked beneath her mattress. In it, she wrote increasingly erratic thoughts. "Something's wrong with Evan. He lies even when there's no reason. The man in the black truck is back. I saw him near the library again. Dreams or warnings? Either way, I need to leave." It painted a picture not of a woman intent on dying, but one desperately trying to survive. Then came the most disturbing entry. "If anything happens to me, it won't be because I chose it." With mounting evidence that Laura Jennings may not have vanished by choice, Detective Ron Halpern, a veteran investigator with the Humphreys County Sheriff's Department, took over the case. Halpern, known for his calm demeanor and meticulous habits, quickly turned his focus to the people closest to Laura. The first person of interest was obvious, Evan Briscoe. Evan had been cooperative but distant during initial interviews. He claimed he hadn't seen Laura in over a week. He told police they had broken up mutually and hadn't spoken since. But when cell tower data was pulled from Evan's phone, it revealed something different. His phone had pinged near Laura's apartment between 11:48 p.m. and 12:17 a.m. on the night she disappeared. Confronted with the discrepancy, Evan changed his story. "Okay, yeah, I drove by. I didn't go in. I parked for a few minutes, trying to decide if I should knock. I just wanted to talk." Investigators found no evidence that he entered the apartment that night, and his fingerprints weren't found on any surfaces inside. Despite Laura's journal entries and the timeline inconsistency, there wasn't enough to charge him. Still, Halpern wasn't satisfied. Digging deeper into Evan's past, the detective discovered a restraining order filed against him in 2013 by a woman named Brooke Hensley, his ex from a nearby town. The order claimed emotional manipulation, stalking, and threats of violence. Though it had expired, it added weight to Laura's own concerns. Meanwhile, forensic analysts revisited the note left on Laura's bed. The handwriting was confirmed to be hers. But the stroke pressure was uneven. Experts suggested she may have written it in haste or fear. They also noted something subtle, the use of a dash before her initial L. Unusual for her. Past letters and notes from Laura typically ended without a flourish. It was a minor but haunting deviation. The case gained traction in local media. Journalists dubbed Laura the Waverly Ghost. Internet forums speculated everything from secret cults to government conspiracies. But within the department, Halpern stayed grounded. He wanted facts. And one came unexpectedly. On January 4, 2017, nearly 7 months after Laura disappeared, a hunter in the Suggs Creek Wildlife Area reported a strange sight, a sun-bleached canvas tote bag tied to the branch of a tree, high up, as if thrown or placed deliberately. Inside were several soaked library books, one of them stamped with Laura's checkout label. The area was miles from any road. It wasn't a place someone would stumble upon casually. Search dogs were deployed immediately. After 2 days combing the area, investigators found what they had been dreading, Laura's car. Her Corolla was buried in pine needles and underbrush at the base of a ravine, a half-mile from the nearest trail. Branches had been deliberately layered over it. The license plate had been removed. Inside the car, the passenger seatbelt was stretched and torn, as if someone had pulled against it violently. There was no blood. No body. But in the glove box, detectives found something vital, a small, waterproof journal. It was Laura's. The final entries were disjointed. Paranoid. But clear enough to offer insight. He said they'd never find me out here. I hear them again outside. I'm not safe. If this is found, tell Mom I tried. I'm not crazy. I'm not. The discovery confirmed Laura had been in that car. And she had been alive for some time after her disappearance. But who had brought her there? On February 9, 2017, Detective Halpern received an anonymous tip. A caller, digitally masked, claimed a man named Gavin Sutter might be involved. Sutter lived off-grid in a converted hunting cabin just 3 miles from where the car was found. He was a former EMT, fired in 2014 for erratic behavior and hoarding medication from trauma scenes. Halpern remembered Sutter. He'd been interviewed early in the case, part of the initial neighborhood sweep. At the time, he claimed to have never met Laura. With new probable cause, a search warrant was issued for Sutter's cabin. The scene inside was disturbing. In a locked basement room, officers found a pink cardigan, confirmed by DNA to belong to Laura. A pair of ballet flats, one missing a strap, was found beneath an old cot. A whiteboard leaned against the wall with odd, fragmented phrases written in red marker. Watch quietly. Don't ask where they go. The less they know, the longer you live. But what rattled even the most experienced officers was a cabinet containing 8 flash drives. On them were surveillance-style videos of women, most of whom appeared drugged or disoriented, sitting silently in dimly lit rooms. Several of them bore similarities to Laura. Long hair. Slight frame. One was dated June 18, 2016, less than 24 hours after Laura vanished. It showed her sitting on the floor, hands zip-tied, staring directly at the camera. Her lips moved, forming a whisper, "Please." Then the screen cut to black. This was the confirmation they needed. Gavin Sutter was arrested without incident. During questioning, he maintained he had saved Laura. That she had been marked by forces too big to name and that he had given her sanctuary. When pressed on her whereabouts, he remained vague. She's part of the forest now. They took her back. Despite hours of interrogation, he refused to say where Laura's body was. A search of the surrounding woods over the next 2 months yielded no human remains. But authorities found evidence of multiple campsites. Tarps. Cans. Handwritten notes with passages from the Bible and cryptic references to cleansing. Halpern believed Laura had been held alive for at least a week, possibly longer. But without a body, prosecutors focused on what they could prove. The evidence was overwhelming. In June 2018, 2 years after Laura's disappearance, Gavin Sutter was formally indicted on charges of aggravated kidnapping, unlawful imprisonment, and multiple counts of voyeurism and unlawful surveillance. In court, the prosecution laid out a chilling timeline. Sutter had been stalking Laura since early 2016. He had hacked into her computer, monitoring her searches and email. The encrypted messages she received came from him. On the night of June 17th, he waited outside her apartment, likely entered while she was sleeping, and abducted her silently. He used psychological manipulation, sedation, and isolation to keep her compliant during captivity. Though he never confessed to murder, prosecutors painted a clear picture. Laura had died in captivity, and Sutter had hidden her body in the deep woods beyond Suggs Creek. The jury deliberated for less than 4 hours. He was found guilty on all counts. On August 24, 2018, Gavin Sutter was sentenced to 80 years in prison without the possibility of parole. The courtroom remained silent as the final verdict was read. Karen Jennings clutched Laura's ballet flat, the only part of her daughter she'd ever recover. Outside the courthouse, reporters asked if she felt justice had been served. Her reply was simple: "Justice would be bringing my daughter home." Laura Jennings didn't simply vanish. She was erased, systematically, silently, by someone who saw her not as a human being but as a possession. A quiet girl in a quiet town, stalked and taken by a man who had studied how to go unnoticed. But Laura wasn't invisible. She left traces. She left warnings. A journal beneath her bed. A whisper to a friend. A final note that read, "I'm sorry," not because she had done something wrong, but because she knew what was coming. Even now, her story echoes. The plaque at the Waverly Library reads, "In memory of Laura G. Jennings, for every quiet voice that deserves to be heard." Some stories don't end with a body found or a full confession. Some stories end with echoes, of footsteps in the woods, of whispered journal entries, of mothers waiting by the phone for a call that will never come. But even in silence, Laura spoke. And we are still listening. She wrote, "I'm sorry.